Hey everyone, Anthony again. From geckos that look like they belong on the cover of a Pink Floyd album to a 102-year-old turtle, here are 8 of the rarest reptiles in the world. Number 8. Chinese Crocodile Lizard. There are only about 1,000 Chinese crocodile lizards left in the world today, and that's a shame because they're remarkable creatures. First off, this thing is a dead ringer for Godzilla, but they named it the crocodile lizard because its tail bears 2 long rows of scales, making it look like its tail should belong to a crocodile. But they're nowhere near as big. They make it to around 18 inches long. You can only find them in a couple of parts of China and Vietnam. These guys are really good at swimming. Their living situation reflects that. They set up house on top of branches that extend over rivers, giving them the ability to jump in at a moment's notice if they start to feel threatened. They're more likely to do that than to get into a fight. However, if they are caught, they will enter a violent struggle, defecating, whistling, and biting to free themselves from their predator. They've been perfecting their lifestyle for over 100 million years. They're the only surviving member of both their family and genus, which extends back to long before the dinosaurs left the Earth. They often enter a metabolic state, remain motionless, and don't respond to any stimulus for several hours to conserve their heat energy, especially when the temperature drops. Because of this unique behavior, this reptile is known as the Great Sleepy Lizard, which has led to the belief that the Chinese crocodile lizards can cure insomnia. Sadly, even though they've been around for so long, we don't know a lot about them. That's probably because there's so few of them left, and over the past 40 years, they've become even less numerous. Their habitats are slowly but surely being destroyed, and the ones that remain are traded as pets because they're worth a lot of money. Number 7. Mary River Turtle. The Mary River turtle has been heavily traded, which led to its declining numbers, but some have a quite distinctive appearance. No, that's not a teenager going through a punk phase, but this turtle does have a straight-up green mohawk growing atop its head. There are even a few sprouts of green growing out from its face. That's not the turtle's hair, but rather algae growing all over its head. It's kind of like a turtle wig, which earns it a spot on this list. Even though they have mouths, that's not what they're breathing from. Instead, they use an eccentric method of respiration. They breathe through the air in their butts. That's right, they breathe through their butts. More specifically, they breathe through their cloaca, which is an organ located in their behind that operates as their go-to for most of their bathroom and reproductive duties. This breathing mechanism is what enables them to stay underwater for up to 3 days. It's like some weird superpower, being able to breathe underwater, but only with your butt. That's very weird. Although it was only studied in a scientific setting in 1994, it had been traded as a pet for 20 years prior. It's also incredibly unique. It's the sole member of its genus, and it's been around for approximately 40 million years. They aren't capable of reproduction until they're 25 years old. Sadly, their numbers are declining because of pet trading practices, as well as the construction of dams. Luckily, wildlife conservationists are keeping an eye out on this turtle, so there is some hope. Would you like to look like this turtle? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 6. The Chinese Alligator. The Chinese alligator is the only alligator that lives outside of the American continent. Of course, we all know about the American alligators, but you might be surprised to realize that there's a Chinese variant as well, and they've been around for quite a while. Some people even think that the Chinese alligator is part of what inspired the development of the mythical Chinese dragon, which permeates Chinese culture to this day. These alligators are typically smaller than their American counterparts, and they are nowhere near as obvious as them either, as they live in a network underground, which enables them to thrive in areas with water, even those near urban spots. This gator split from its American alligator cousin about 40 million years ago, when each of them diverged from the rest of the animal kingdom after the dinosaurs went extinct. There are only a mere 100 members of this species still living in the world. Almost all of their habitats have been taken over, giving them very few places in the world to live. For a long time, they were also hunted, but that has recently stopped. Thankfully, there are efforts in place to keep this alligator on the planet. Their habitats are being revitalized and breeding is currently taking place, so they might restore to greater numbers yet. Number 5. Psychedelic rock gecko. Scientists think that there are only about 500 psychedelic rock geckos left in the world, and that's quite a shame, because these creatures are some of the most dazzling reptiles on the planet. As their name would indicate, psychedelic rock geckos are brightly colored and speckled with fascinating features. For instance, all of its limbs are colored with a loud orange. This could make one think that this little reptile is wearing orange boots. And its purple body and yellow-green head are also pretty magnificent. It looks more like it belongs on a psychedelic album cover than in the wild. And in fact, there are only 2 places in the world where you can find this gecko: on the Hon Konai Island in South Vietnam and the Hong Tuan Island. Their habitats are 5 square miles and 984 square feet, respectively, and that's the total amount of space in which they live. Even though they were only discovered in 2010, they've been widely trafficked for their distinctive features. This has brought their population down to a mere 500, and they haven't been investigated all that much, but captive breeding efforts are in place. We do know that both the males and females exhibit this bright coloration scheme, as well as the youth of the species. They like to hang out in the sun rather than remain deep inside of rocks like other lizards. We can only hope that these lizards continue to populate the world because they undoubtedly make it a more interesting place. And now for number 4. But first, do you think this reptile with its orange boots is adorable? Let me know in the comments below. Number 4. Madagascar blind snake. The Madagascar blind snake is one strange snake. Throughout its evolution, it stopped being able to see through its eyes. Like other blind snakes, its eyes are actually located beneath the scales on its head. They're also incredibly tiny. They're approximately the size of your average earthworm. Not only that, but they also have pink skin. Strange to think that this is a snake at all, but they're out there. However, in terms of population size, they're not doing that well. We've seen so few of them that their population size is unknown. We only saw them in 1905, and then it took another 100 years to find them again. To add to that, it's the only species in both its genus and its broader family, making this one truly unique snake. Based on the fossil record, scientists think that it went off on its own path around the time of the dinosaurs were wiped out. Blind snakes, including those of the Madagascar variety, are all burrowing creatures. They live either inside of wood or underground. The Madagascar blind snake feeds on termites and ants with a specialized eating apparatus. However, due to deforestation and grazing, their forest habitats are shrinking yearly. Researchers think that they live exclusively in an area that's about 10 square kilometers. Number 3. Armadillo Lizard. The armadillo lizard is considered one of the rarest reptiles, not only in terms of its population, but also for its behavior and attributes. The armadillo lizard is aptly named for its armor-like exterior, which is very similar to that of an armadillo. If you look, you can see just how sharp and pointy these pieces of armor must be. Besides, whenever they're feeling threatened, they curl up just like an armadillo, because their underbellies are not guarded by the same armor. However, when these lizards curl up, they display a much more interesting look than other animals that exhibit similar behavior. Because of their slender frames, when they curl themselves up, they look like the mythical symbol of the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. That's what gives them their Latin name, Ouroboros cataphractus expialidocious. This defensive mechanism is pretty effective because every part of their body gets protected. This species is one of the few lizards that doesn't lay eggs. Even the female can feed her young, which is also very unusual for a lizard. They eat termites mostly, just like armadillos, but this is also their downfall. Since they rely so heavily on termite populations, when those populations are affected, so are armadillo lizards. Since they're so distinctive, humans often tried to capture them for trade. Once this was tempered down, however, the populations got back up to speed. If you ever meet this species, keep an eye out. It's quite likely that you'll come across 60 of your fellow lizards. Number 2. Madagascar big-headed turtle. Madagascar's big-headed turtle is currently considered to be the most endangered reptile alive today on Earth. Its name pretty much tells you all you need to know about it. It hails from Madagascar, which is a hub of biological diversity because of its long separation from mainland wildlife. And also, as its name makes clear, it has a really big head when compared to its body. These turtles eat mollusks and the remains of dead fauna. These turtles are as old as heck too. In fact, you might call them downright prehistoric. Their species extends back around 80 million years, which means that they were there when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. So this species represents a long line. It's sad to think that they might not be around for much longer. Imagine the stories we'd hear if they could tell us what the world was like back then. Over the 20th century, these big-headed turtles rapidly declined in their population numbers. People would often eat them, and their habitats are under severe stress due to deforestation and deterioration. These turtles tend to live in places that aren't guarded by conservation efforts. However, in recent years, people have started to try to breed them in captivity, and they've been closely watched, so hopefully we can get this endangered species back off the ground soon. Number 1. Lonesome George. In terms of rarity, one turtle stood above all the other reptiles on this list. Lonesome George. George was a Pinta Island tortoise, which was a heavily endangered species of tortoise. In fact, George was such a rarity that he is considered to be the last member of his entire species. Not only does that make him one of a kind, but he was the single rarest animal in the world for the last years of his life. Alas, Lonesome George died on June 24, 2012. For a great chunk of his life, he lived at the Tortoise Breeding and Rearing Center located in Puerto Aura, Santa Cruz Island, inside of the Galapagos National Park. He was an old man who lived a long, full life. Officials think that he made it to nearly 102 years old. So when they entered his corral and found him lifeless, they were distraught. His death represented the end of the entire species. In the 1800s, Pinta Island tortoises were killed in large number because of Pinta Island's location as an entrance and exit point from the Galapagos Islands. There's one ray of hope, however. Researchers from Yale University recently discovered 17 hybrids from the species, which means that their Pinta Island parents might still be alive. We can't know for sure, but it would be a big win for conservationism if we were to be able to discover some more Lonesome Georges. Have you ever heard the story of Lonesome George? Tell me below in the comments. Thank all of you for watching. What's your favorite rare reptile? I love that gecko. He is awesome looking. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video.